Hello again, I am Volante. New World, the MMO that I've been waiting on for quite some time. Everyone seems quite excited about it at the moment. People are starting to get the news that it's something to pay attention to. It's slipped under a lot of people's radar, but not now. It's kind of a big deal right now. Lots of big name Twitch streamers have been trying it out and singing its praises or being critical of it. And, you know, just like any other game, we've got the people who are very, very happy and the people who are very, very upset because it's not like a completely different game that they like better. Things like that. So, we are a week into the closed beta at the moment, which runs in total for just under 2 weeks. So I've only got a little bit left, and as of a few hours ago, there is a brand new developer update posted in the official forums talking about the status of things and how things have been going, what they're doing next to prepare for launch. And I figure it's time to have a chat about whether or not New World, a game that has been delayed several times already. The last time it was delayed for almost a year. Because that's how far away they thought it was from being ready. But is it ready now? Is it, at the very least, sufficient to survive the launch window while more and finer, more patches and fine-tuning and things come out, and possibly in a year's time, the first big content patch? Because that's, generally what we're expecting in this game, considering that it doesn't have a subscription fee. It's just a pay once, play as long as you like, supported by cash up kind of thing. So we're assuming the long-term monetization of the game is going to be with yearly big expansions, kind of like Destiny 2 does it. So before I dive into my personal pros and cons and thoughts and considerations and stuff about whether or not this game is ready and the kind of issues that I've been hitting and what I'm happy with, let's go through the official dev update and see where they're at. Hi adventurers, it's been an amazing week since we started closed beta and we have loved watching everyone play New World. I hope you have had fun in exploring and discovering some of the mysteries of Eternium. I have. Thank you, devs. Thank you for your patience with the initial instability in beta. Not everyone has been that patient. You know, the type of gamer with tiny attention spans and very, very self-entitled attitudes, even in a beta where the very purpose is to test things and make sure things work, which inherently means sometimes I have to turn things off and start them up again, because that's step one in problem solving in tech. So if you are one of those petty little bitches, shh, the grown-ups are trying to talk, shh. As an update to our last communication, we created several test builds over the weekend and discovered the problem with the help of a few servers. So they were trying different things on different servers. Again, this is what a beta is for just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing if they can sort of narrow down where the problem is, if there is a problem to be found, because these things are very, very complicated and sometimes very hard to pin down exactly where the issue lies. So they have a bunch of different servers, they're trying a bunch of different solutions and finding out which one works best. So if you're on a server that happens to have more downtime than the other ones, shush, the grown-ups are talking. We discovered the problem with the help of a few servers, so as of Monday morning Pacific time, we have the entire service running with that updated, much more stable code. We know there are more rare crashes that can still occur, and we're working those as well. We also want to thank you for all the bugs and exploits submitted. Our highest priority has been serviceability and world availability due to the demand we're experiencing thus far. As we are starting to get more comfortable in regards of stability and availability of the servers, we are now able to pivot and focus on addressing the bugs and exploits that have surfaced in closed beta. So if you've been hitting bugs and you're worried about certain kinds of exploits they haven't addressed yet, well, they've been working on the server so far. I've said this many, many times in live streams and in Discord chats and things like that. This is the process of the beta. They want to get the servers right, and now that they feel they're in a pretty good place with that, now they're pivoting to start working on some day one bugs, so the launch goes as smoothly as possible. Again, this is what a beta is for. It's not early access, it's not a preview, it's not a little bonus for you to get a head start on the game or practice the game. It is for them. You getting to play it's just kind of a bonus. They want you to play it so they can test it, but this is for the launch of the game. It's not for you. Well, it's for you later, but not you now. So shush with the entitlement. We have a large number of game fixes coming in, several of which address exploits that are being used currently. Good. We knew there would be some of these. Of course there will be. There always is. And it's our goal to address them during beta. Hopefully they get them all nailed down because, well, people sort of exploiting and cheating and being sleazy and derpy in the game just kind of ruins it for everybody. Just don't be that person. We are working to fix the ones that are surfaced after launch. Our process approaching exploits will be different. They will be the highest priority in terms to fix, and we will be taking action against the accounts that are caught using identified exploits. Warned you. These will include rollback or removal of any gain from those exploits or benefited from utilizing them. We understand how vital it is to have a level playing field for all players within New World. we are excited to continue improving New World with you, Scott. Cheers, Scott. So, what kind of stuff have I been running into, and do I think it's ready for launch, or are we likely to see another little delay? Well, for me, my experience has been going pretty good. I've had a few little lag spikes here and there, usually in specific instances like in dungeons or in the war. Lag has been a bit of an issue in those kind of instanced places. In the 50 versus 50 war I participated in, it was especially bad. I was switching between using hatchet and hammer for a bit of DPS and crowd control, and the wars need work. The wars need work. Controlling a point where everyone's just swarming at the point, there's no tactic there. It's just spam click your abilities and hope for the best. PvP generally works really quite well when it's one-on-one or a small group versus a small group out in the open world, but these 50 versus 50 things, it's just not working. It's not fun. It's just, yeah, like you swarm and you hope for the best, and that's it. And the Ice Gauntlet crowd control abilities are completely broken for 50 versus 50 because you get like a dozen of those guys just spamming the point and just, you got no hope. There's nothing. Then I tried switching out to the musket, coming back to the backline, just picking guys off. I was firing into big swarms of people, of the enemy right at the gate, and I was only getting damage numbers pinging off maybe 60% of the time, just firing into a dense crowd. That doesn't feel right. I tried picking off people running across the top of the walls, trying to get to emplacements and stuff like that. And, you know, I'd take aim, wait for the 3 seconds to get my little benefit up and preload my powder burn and things like that, go bang, and then they'd go zip, and teleport across to the other side as rubber banding would take effect. So that was annoying. So the war meta needs a lot of work. Everything else, generally really quite fun. Down to the finer combat itself, PvE and PvP, one of the biggest changes they did since preview last year, and something that's been a big talking point for a lot of people, is the removal of stun and stagger lock and things like that. On the one hand, it did make combat feel really good and very high skill based on occasion. On the other hand, a lot of people didn't know how to deal with that, and they whined and complained because they're coming in from other games where it has much more dumbed down combat, or even worse, tab targeting combat, and they really struggled to adapt to a skill based combat, and they were just getting stun locked and then crying about it like little babies instead of getting good and learning how the combat rolls. So they took away that stun lock thing, and it was a problem occasionally if you didn't know how. It was difficult to get out of sometimes, particularly when it was 2 or 3v1 kind of deal. You could just get melted, but it's not that much better right now with the way the Ice Gauntlets work anyway. So I'd rather see it come back, maybe not quite as it was, but come back a little bit, so combat feels just a little bit more skill-based and a little bit more challenging, a little bit more depth to it again. But by and large, the combat system as it stands is still quite fun. I've been enjoying it. It's still quite skill-based. The difficulty ramping with the PvE enemies feels just about right. You can take on things a few levels above you with some bravery or some skill and sort of get by, but if you get 2 or 3 of them on you at once, you're basically done. Anything that's at your skill level, you can generally handle sort of in groups of 2 or 3, but more than that, you're done. So the difficulty curve and the ramping as you go through the game feels just about perfect in my mind. I never feel like I'm just storming through an area, smushing everything, unless, of course, I'm storming through an area where all the enemies are several levels below me or more. But anything at level appropriate, I do feel like I have to be on my toes, I have to be careful regardless of what weapon combination I'm using. It feels engaging, and it feels, I have to pay attention. It feels good. So in all those respects, apart from the war, I feel like the game is ready or good enough at the moment. There's still tweaking to be done, and they know there's still tweaking to be done, and they're still doing it, and there's little balancing to be done between weapon types and certain abilities that are going to get nerfed or buffed and things like that, because, well, that always happens anyway in every multiplayer game with a range of different classes and weapons and stuff. There's always balancing to be done, and that continues to happen throughout the game's life as well. So what about those smaller issues? Let's talk about how the presentation. I've been playing at 1440p and 4K, switching back between the two. There's not a lot of visual difference with the graphical style in this game between those two, so I've been trying to find sort of the sweet spot. Do I like 4K for the extra little bit of clarity, or do I like 1440p for the extra little FPS boost? I'm still making up my mind on that, but woe betide anyone playing at 1080p. Because if you're playing at 1080p, there's no anti-aliasing in the game as it stands, and so everything's very jaggy, and any movement you go around, those jaggies sort of start shimmering, and it's very, very distracting. I didn't know it was a problem until I saw people complaining about it in the forums and such, and I went, oh, that can't be that bad. So I switched down to 1080p and went, oh, it's bad. It's real bad. So They really do need to implement some sort of resolution scaling or anti-aliasing technology, or even DLSS or Team Red's new thing. I forget the acronym for it, that thing, their DLSS equivalent thing. Not a very catchy name. I keep forgetting the damn thing. But they definitely need better and more graphics options for fine-tuning this stuff. There are still many UI bugs from time to time. Again, back in the war, I could not get into the shop UI, so I couldn't buy extra things. I couldn't buy extra ammunition. I couldn't, replenish any of our campant sort of abilities or anything like that. I could do nothing to assist on that grander matter of the war. And that was very, very frustrating. So they need to fix that. There are other UI bugs that I've run into. There are certain quests where you go, deliver a certain amount of these particular recipes cooked up. And I went, no problem. So I went to the thing. I've got all the ingredients I need. Easy peasy, simple. Craft 10 of those. It crafted the wrong thing. That's weird. Come back, go back in. Craft 10 of those. It crafted the wrong thing again. What's going on? Third time crafted the right thing. 3 times the ingredients wasted along the way. And that's very annoying. That's a known bug that they're trying to work on, but I've hit that many times and it's been wildly infuriating. There are movement speed bugs where people get sort of stuck in a permanently slowed position if they dodge roll too many times with the ice gauntlet equipped. So that's a bit of a problem. You got to nail that stuff down before launch. Absolutely. There is some collision issues as well. There are certain mountainsides that if you sort of try and climb up or walk across or squat walk into, you can just pass through them. There's no collision on the texture, so it can wind up inside the world. It's not an issue where you start falling through the world like you see in some games. You just kind of, the rock is invisible basically, and you start seeing inside the texture. You can just walk back out again. So it's not game breaking, but it's certainly immersion damaging. So they need to fix whatever's wrong with that if they can. There's a thing sometimes where resource nodes, particularly large boulders of iron and things like that, if you stand on the resource spot when it respawns, you can get trapped inside it. You can mine your way out, so that's fine. It's easy to self-fix. But if your mining tool is broken, or you don't have one with you for whatever reason, or you don't have the repair parts, then there's the potential for you to get literally stuck in there. I haven't heard about it happening to anybody, but that's a potential thing that could happen. And again, it's an immersion issue from the start. So if someone's standing on a node where a resource is, don't make the node respawn on top of them. That sounds like an easy fix to me. There's a bit of a progression issue once you get to about level 25 also. The leveling feels pretty smooth. As you're getting there, it sort of gradually slows down. The first 7 levels are very, very fast because they're boosted. The rest of it feels pretty good. You feel like you're making pretty good progression. Then you sort of hit a plateau at 25. It sort of flattens out pretty quickly, and getting up to 30 feels like a much heavier grind than we have been so far. And that can be a bit jarring for some people. It doesn't feel good, so I want that smoothed out a little bit. I'm okay with progression slowing down. In fact, I want that so I can spend more time leveling and I don't want to rush to end game as quickly as possible. I want to enjoy everything along the way. So just smoothing out that sort of plateau effect at certain sort of leveling stages, that could help a lot with the feeling. Because right now it just sort of, you slam against it really aggressively. So the things they're doing that I love and are working really quite well at the moment. I'm loving what they've done to the crafting system. That's had a complete overhaul. It works a lot smoother now. A lot more of the crafting and gathering situations sort of play into one another. So it kind of forces cooperation either within the guild or through the marketplaces and stuff, selling different reagents and materials and things like that, going back and forth. That's been a very active part of the game. I love how that's working. I love that each different recipe could possibly use different types of ingredients. So if you're making a health potion, there's several different combinations of herbs and whatnot you can use. So it's not just one resource you have to go and gather. They've really nailed the crafting system as far as I'm concerned. I've really been enjoying the crafting and cooking the potion. I love that each marketplace in each individual town is separate. So they're not all connected to one big global marketplace. So, individual towns have their own individual economies running with individual, rarities of items. Some stuff is rare because you have to get it from further away and you bring it back and sell it to this market and things like that. And, the high level stuff, we, take high level stuff back down to the low tier towns and sell sort of basic health pots for the newbies, or, more ammunition and arrows and bullets and things like that are harder to craft at lower levels. You take those to the lower towns and, there's an exchange between towns. And each town has its own, like I said, it has its own economy, but there's also an inter-town economy going on as well with different items. And it's working really remarkably well. I don't know whether this is an accident of design or they very specifically designed it this way, but it works. The multiplayer aspects, and this is something a lot of people have talked about as well. A lot of modern MMO games are basically single player games with other people around. Like modern World of Warcraft, you talk to people who play it and they talk about, you know, it's largely a single player experience until you do sort of the dungeons and the raids and whatnot. And that's a common thread across a lot of, you know, of the most popular and the more recent MMOs that have come out. New World feels like a proper MMO. You can certainly solo large portions of it if that's what you want to do, and I certainly do. I do enjoy that, just pottering around the world, doing little missions, going killing stuff, going gathering stuff, doing the crafting. You know, I will spend many hours completely alone, happy as a clam, just doing that sort of stuff. But when I want to do the multiplayer stuff, and when an opportunity comes along to engage in multiplayer stuff, more than any other game that I've played, you know, in this kind of area, I'm super happy to do that. I'm part of a guild right now. We get on the Discord voice chat. We, you know, run the dungeons, or we just hang out doing our own little thing, having a bit of a chat about the game and things like that. And I never, or almost never, do that with any other game. Like the level of social interaction I've had in this game is so far above any other multiplayer game that I've played in recent years. It's mildly surprising because I'm not that sort of hyper social kind of guy, but I've really been enjoying the social aspects of this game. The in-game chat, the voice chat, the, you know, outside the Discord chat within the guild and things like that, and just talking to, you know, in text on the guild Discord and things. I don't know why exactly this game in particular, this particular combination of things has let me lean into that a little more, or a lot more heavily than I would normally. But I like it. I've been enjoying it. But by and large, I've been having tons of fun. Like I've put in 80 or 90 hours in the beta so far, I think. Way more than I planned to. I planned to put in maybe 30 hours. My plan was to try out different weapon combinations to find out what works so I can go into the, you know, main game and just focus on one build, basically, instead of toying around with it until I find something I like. That was the plan. And I'm almost there. I've got a couple of other things I want to try first, but I'm pretty much there. But I'm enjoying everything else so much, just sort of as it comes in. I find it hard to stop playing. So, is it ready for launch? Yes, except they do need to do a little bit more weapon balancing tweaking first. There are some stuff that's just OP, some stuff that just doesn't feel like it's working correctly as described. So there's things they need to fix about the weapons and the skills and abilities and nerf and buff and tweak, all that sort of stuff, for launch to feel really good without sort of one thing becoming the meta and becoming really boring, as, you know, 80% of the people run that build and things like that. That's always very boring. And there's the usual sort of little issues and little bugs and stuff with the UI they need to polish up. And I expect that kind of stuff will be ready by launch, because we've still got several days more of the beta to test this stuff, and then, you know, another month until game actual launch proper. So I think they've got plenty of time to address the stuff that we're worried about. And after launch, they can work on the sort of finer tuning everything else along the path. So is it ready for launch? Yeah. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But all the little annoyances that I've hit are in no way sort of game breaking. It's little inconveniences or little annoyances. And I tell you what, I've certainly played a lot more broken games at launch that have gone on to survive themselves. And, you know, compared to some of the more disastrous launches in recent history, it's a lot more ready than Cyberpunk ever was. It's a lot more ready than Fallout 76 was. It's a lot more ready than a lot of games. I can't name a game that has launched perfect. This is not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. But is it ready? I think it is. I think it is. I'll be there day one, hour one, very happy, and I'll probably disappear for a week. Maybe I'll try and get some content ready so I don't have to work during that first week. I don't know. I know some of the guys in the guilds are taking days off for the first 3 or 4 days of the game. Like, they've applied for time off from their actual jobs so they can sink into this. That's how much other people are enjoying it. How are you feeling about it? Let me know in the down below, of course. And thank you as always to the patrons up above there for their above and beyond support. I am Lottie. Thank you for watching. Hope you found this interesting. Catch you next time.